So I was bullied a lot, a lot. There was a girl, I was in high school, and she came at me and she tried to take a swing at me, and I grabbed her leg and I hit her. And I was like, I'm not taking this anymore. I listened to my gut to say I'm fighting back this time. And it's funny, I remember Sister Beth, she's part of the administration, and she said, I'm so proud of you. I thought I was gonna be in so much trouble. And she's like, no, I needed you to defend yourself because nobody else is gonna help me or advocate for me other than me. And that was my gut telling me, okay, now I know how to stand up for myself. Because I didn't. I was always told to shut up. I was always told to shut down, or somebody was gonna resolve my problem. And I didn't. And that was my gut telling me, all right, this is the day.
Dr. Z, welcome to the Listening Bea. Thank you so much for being here. You're a child psychiatrist, the founder of Listen to the Kids, and a fierce advocate for youth voices. But underneath it all, you're someone who turned your own pain into purpose, and you're now helping a generation feel finally seen and listening to our voices that you feel need to be heard. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Beatrice. I really do appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be here because someone who's actually is the youth I get to talk to today.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So my first question is, what's one thing that kids have taught you that change how you see the world and how adults should start listening differently because of it?
So as the world has currently been in its own little chaos, as we all see, I hear more and more kids voicing their opinions. And I remember as a child myself, when I wanted to voice my opinion, I was kind of shut down and said, go be in the kid's place, or go be a kid, or don't worry about it. Well, I think we had a voice then. And if we spoke our voices, I learned now when I hear these kids, oh my God, that's actually an important topic to discuss. That could we use, it doesn't matter the conversation we're having. I mean, it could be a current event topic. It could be an education topic. It could be a mental health topic. It could be a sports topic. They actually have an opinion. We all have a brain. We were all given a brain. And whether your brain has its optimal or not, or you have some, it actually comes up with great ideas. And so what I've learned is that as you let children speak, or the youth speak, or young adults speak, you're going to get ideas that you never thought of. And, I always tell my CEOs this. I say, we always want our employees to give us ideas, because when they look good, we look good, right? When your company's doing well, that's when you know you're doing well. Well, what's the difference when your children are doing great? You look great. And if your kids are giving these great opinions and talking about things and are very smart and want to say such wonderful things to make their future better, then why are we not opening the doors to them?
Yeah.
So that's what I've learned is open the doors, let them talk, let them give their opinions, because there'll be something there that you're like, oh, I didn't see that. I always say the world right now is in such chaos, right? Sometimes when you hear a kid say something, you're like, wow, this 14-year-old is actually giving me better advice than this 80-something-year-old. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting, because your generation, the Gen Zs, the millennials, the Gen Alphas, come from a different perspective. The information radio is so much faster than what we had. My 8-year-old will tell me, oh, did you hear this, Mom? I'm like, no, I didn't. Where did you get that information? He goes, yeah, I was just, reading this on the Google. And I'm like, okay, on Google, you were reading something and it popped up. But he already has the information. It's not bad information. It was healthy information. But it was an important information that I'm like, oh, this is actually good for me to know because of the work I do.
Yeah.
And
I love that you bring that up. And I feel like you were talking about, different generations, how the times have changed, compared to when we had no internet, no AI, none of this. Now we have an abundance of knowledge, and especially our generation is utilizing that.
Right. And you're utilizing it. I understand you guys were given, this whole digital world, but not a manual. But I think it's interesting how many parents or adults, not even parents, adults, teachers, coaches, my 9-year-old can figure out. But then we complain that you're on this all the time. Well, then why are you handing it to your 9-year-old,
Yeah.
But yes, there is an ability that your brains have developed in a very different manner as the different generations have. I mean, I could give you the science behind it, but development has been quicker. Whether it's in the water or not, we say, but it's in there. It's there. So
Yes.
So I think that's one of the reasons I've learned is sometimes listening to the kids is actually more important than listening to the adults.
Yeah, I think that's so important and such a crucial tip because so many people also like their ego gets involved, which is it's
Yes.
totally natural because you feel like I'm older, I'm wise, I know more, which is totally fine and in most cases can be true, but there's also like specific scenarios where it is important and it's okay to listen to someone younger and less experienced because they have a whole new view.
Well, think about what you just said. So now, if you teach a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 17-year-old, or even a 23-year-old to listen to someone else, what's going to happen when they become adults? We actually learn to communicate and listen to one another.
Mm.
The adults in our lives, or as I am the adults didn't learn that. We were stuck in this little place of shut them down, make them quiet, make them not heard. Your generation of Gen Zs and millennials and the youth advocates that I talk to all the time, they're like, we have an opinion. We know what we're talking about. We
Yeah.
don't come without facts, which is very important because the adults are like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, well, have you actually sat down and had a conversation with them? They do know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So that is really the importance of that.
Totally. And I feel like some people are scared to do that too because you're admitting to, you're being humble and
Yes. I mean, what adult wants to say, oh, my child or my student or my, kid in my world that I work with was right and I was wrong. It goes back to your thing of ego.
yeah. So with you, how do you see that energy playing out? Like how can we take our energy and change it in a way that we are more accepting and listen to people that have different points of views? Because it also goes the reverse way. Some teenagers are like, "Oh, whatever, mom," you know?
Well, so the thing is, the problem we have is if you haven't been listened to, then you're not going to listen. The youth today is with a megaphone saying, I'm not doing this. This is not me. But the problem we have with adults is also they're not available. We as adults have to be available to our youth. A lot of parents complain about, the digital atmosphere, the kids are stuck in their rooms, they don't have time. Well, where are you? And that's a parenting situation. Now on the teacher side, they're like, well, the kids don't want to speak up. They don't have a voice. Well, have you given them a voice or do you shut them down?
Mm.
Then on the adult side, when we're talking about HR people or people in corporate America or jobs, when they're talking about, the kids who are going out there under 27 who are actually going to look for jobs and doing interviews, they're like, well, they don't have interview skills. They don't have this. Well, why is it has to be the way you want it to be? Why can't it be just different now? It's okay to send a video in for an interview. We came from a place of you went to the office, you did this. This is how you were supposed to live. It doesn't always work that way. I think adults have to realize they're changing as well as times are changing, as well as the younger generation is going to make a change and it's going to be different when they come into those corporate spaces. So I think what we have to do is the advice is not for the adults to only listen. The advice is for the youth to have patience, but also keep it going. You can't, if you tell your parent, let's just say it's a mom child conversation, if you're like, oh, mom, you don't know what you're talking about, well, then explain it to them. Sit down and use your voice and explain it to them. Sit down and tell them what it means. Sit down and have it. On the other side, the adult has to be quiet and listen unjudgmentally, which is hard for adults to do. But the youth has to be its own advocate and keep saying that over and over again. Because if we don't, we're not going to create that connection between an adult and the youth and the next generation. We're going to have this fast growing pace of the same mistakes we've always made generationally. So that's really where you have to have the youth keep pushing for their own advocacy as well. Now, I know a 9-year-old can't do that. I know an 11-year-old can't do that. I would say 13 and above, maybe even 15 and above, they can, but you have to do it also at the right time. Don't create an argument because what's going to happen is you're going to get pushback. Have your moment. If you see the moment's not there, say, thank you. I will come back and have this conversation. Do you know how much an adult will respect you when you give them their space and their boundary? It's very interesting to watch, but the adults are a little taken back like, wait, did they just stop the conversation? They didn't disrespectfully stop it. They just said, you're not hearing me right now. We're not communicating right now. Let's walk away and come back again.
A healthy boundary.
A healthy boundary.
Yeah, I absolutely love that point because you're finding the right time to talk to someone. And then that gives you time and them time to get into the right energy and then come back in the right environment to discuss whatever is the issue. Yeah. And back to your point about how, in these times and in this environment, we have different points of views and we're trying to express them with each other. And how my generation is speaking up about what we believe in and things like that. How do you feel that like the environment of social media and AI and the different people that are influencing us, like celebrities and people like that, how do you feel our environment is influencing our point of view and our ability to speak up?
So, okay, so there's two parts to social media. We have to talk about how social media, and it depends on the generation, right? So I'm a huge advocate for anyone under the age of 16 not having social media.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is and I think it's your generation that has to tell the younger generation not to have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think adults putting a ban on it, I think adults advocating for it, I think adults doing all this thing for it, the kids aren't listening. I think your generation has to come out with advocacy and has to show them this is why it's important for you not have it. I don't think the adults, I think too many adults talking, the younger generation just shuts you down. The same way the adults shut the younger generation down.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize you're doing it the same exact thing. No one's communicating with one another. And when you have an 11-year-old or a 9-year-old stop advocating to get a phone to their parents, you will see this because the older generation is telling the younger generation. I'm not talking about the adult generation. I'm talking about the 16 and the 18s and the 23-year-olds telling the younger kids, this is what it did to us and we don't want it. And start advocating in that way. I think the parents will start getting on board through that. Now, if we're talking about your voices in social media and the older generation, there's three parts. One, we have to make sure the people we are listening to give you the correct information. So if you hear one person give you an information, go find out something else from somebody else. Look at all the different people talking about it and then collect your own opinion on it. Okay? Don't think just because one person said this, whether we're talking about mental health, whether we're talking about news, whether we're talking about current events, whether we're talking about politics, I don't care what we're talking, education, I can name the list of things that this is the way it's going to be and there's no other way because this is one person has said it and that's the truth. It doesn't work that way. And I'm
No.
not talking, I'm bipartisan. I don't have a thing in anything. I work with kids, right? So you have to do that. Then secondly, when you look into the information, don't go to one platform. Find out different places, different information. Go to the mass medias, go to your platforms that you look at, go to other places. If we're looking for information to voice our opinion, that's what we're talking about, right? And then the third thing be when you are voicing your opinion, make sure you're voicing it in a very accurate and authentic way. That this is my opinion, this is what I'm saying. Because we see a lot of this, and I say this in the mental health world and in the healthcare industry, is we see a lot of influencers and celebrities and say this and I appreciate everyone bringing out their stories because that's going to help people also advocate for themselves. But not everybody's resolution or treatment plan is the same.
Mhm.
And I do this to parents all the time. We have so many parenting techniques out there. But go listen to your kid what he needs before you decide what kind of treatment you want to give them or what kind of parenting you want to do with them. So before a youth wants to make a decision on what do they want to talk about or what they want to listen to, go listen to people. Go get your truth and your authenticity and go get your facts together. And then utilize those platforms to say, okay, this is the right one. You know, I think social media was given to you guys without a manual. I really feel like I think it was given to anyone without a manual, you know? And then that platforms just grew and grew and grew and you got 1 to 6 to 70 to 7,000 now, you know? And the information is so great, but it's also very dangerous. And when we want to speak up and we want people to listen to us, we have to say it accurately. So make sure we go out and collect those right informations and listen to what other people are saying before we utilize. And also that gives you power. And I know your generation is about creating authenticity and being worthily known, like being worthy. You want to know that your worth is valued. Well, to have your worth valued, to for your voice to be important, you have to collect information. You have to educate yourself, not by one person or platform.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you just said. And I have a follow up question on that because I think that with the authenticity and the worth of our own opinions that come up from the knowledge that we've gained, I think it's scary to us. Like it's been scary to me sometimes to speak up and voice what I truly believe because we're surrounded by social media and people that as a whole like believe something different. So in your experience and like relationships, how have you like do you have an example of a story or anything how we can speak up if we have an opinion that differs from others greatly and we're afraid of what they might think?
So I think the first thing is fear is going to be there for the rest of our lives. how do we work through fear is a whole process. Okay, so take in your fear and use that as your knowledge. Utilize your fear as your basis to say, just because I'm afraid doesn't mean I'm wrong, right? It's an opinion. Make sure we know it's an opinion. You're not sitting out there telling someone, unless you are, that this is the way you should believe and that's the only way to believe. This is your opinion, and I'm saying take in the fear, create it into an opinion, and then voice it, right? And then if you are asked certain questions, then say, okay, here are the facts that I have along with it. Yes, we are all, even me at the age of 47 this year, we are all afraid to put things out there. But if you don't put it out there, you're not going to know. Maybe there's a difference of opinion that someone can bring to you. Like I put something out there and someone will say, well, this, and this. And I say, I agree with you, but I'm going to have a communication with you to agree to disagree. That's where listening starts. If we start hearing one another, we could have differences of opinion, but we will agree to disagree and communicate to create connection.
Yes.
And that's what you need to do in your generation because we have never done that before.
Yeah, we haven't.
And I think because you guys want to voice your opinion so much and because you want to put your voices out there so much, it's not going to harm anyone. But if you're having fear because you don't want, I think in the word is fallback or like someone, it's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we have to hear that to then keep moving forward and voicing our opinions more.
Yes, that's amazing. I completely agree. And back to the point of like, we have our own opinions. Any opinion that we have, since it's opinion, it's not wrong. From like our own perspective, and other people have opinions and they can seem wrong to each other, but it can't be wrong since it's our own opinions.
So I think one of the things we should also talk about with this opinion piece is there's a lot of pressure on your generation, like whether we're talking social media and I think a lot of you are also trying to find your passion and what you're authentic about. Your opinion could be your passion. And it can turn into your authenticity. So I always say being authentic, but it's a trap, right? If you're authentic, you're going to make your money through that. And that's the trap. No, it's not. The truth is you don't need to monetize on your purpose, right? Like everyone's like, if I put it out on social media or if this is who I am, well, why aren't you allowed to explore and rest and change your mind? And then authenticity shouldn't feel so scary, right? So that's your homework assignment. Is if you feel that you're fearful, right, of your opinion, then let's go find what that opinion meant. And is that your passion? Is that your authenticity? And then put it out there. So that's a second way of doing it too. I was just thinking as you were talking, because you don't need to have any type of old school purpose, or you have to pick a career, or you have to say something when a political opinion comes out, or you figure it out, do your homework assignment. Put it in that terms how you guys were when you guys were in school and stuff, right? And another thing is your authenticity shouldn't feel like it's tedious on you. It should feel freedom. It should be easy.
Expansive.
And if it's expansive, and if it's not, then maybe we need to sit down and think through what we're talking about. Because you never know, that opinion could be a passion that you're going to work through. But you have to voice it. And that's where listening comes in for the adults.
Yeah, the hardest part is listening and being heard.
Yeah.
I love it. And so on the course of passion and finding, your opinion and what you really believe in, how did you go on this journey?
Wow. I always want to say that's because when I was young, I wasn't listened to. And it's true. It is very true. Like, I feel like I had such a voice as a child and I was shut down so much. And obviously that's where some of my trauma, some of my disabilities and some of my things were, suppressed. And so it really became harder for me as I grew as to be an adult. And it took me through a lot of mental health struggles and it took me through a lot of traumatic struggles. Now it's funny because I sit down and I'm writing the book and I'm like, if I was listened to, what would be different? Right? So again, that is near here or there, but the more I went out there and I worked with kids and I started talking to them, they just didn't feel like they were accepted in this world. No. And I think for me, it's not about just listening, it's about acceptance. And it's about them having that place where they can create their own opinion and not feel like, they're not wanted. And it really started as early as 8-year-olds that wanted to amplify what they wanted to say. And then I started saying, okay, there's more than just listening. It's about creating communication, connection. And then this listening part was creating leaders because they were voicing their opinions. And we were suppressing that for a long time. We've seen generationally kids get sidetracked. This is where we actually in psychiatry also say when children aren't heard, they're fearful, and that fear turns into trauma. So to change that development, we have to be able to give our children a place to voice their opinions and listen to them. And then we as the adults can guide them in the right way. If we don't know what their needs are and wants are, then how do we guide them, right? So I think that's really how the work started, was through my own story and then working with kids and then hearing more and more of the same stories over and over again going, okay, we're doing something really wrong here. We've got to change something fast. And that's really where it came from.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. And my mom, she always says like treat your kid as if they're not an adult in the way that, you know, they can handle adult things, but in the way that their opinion matters. It's
I
not like,
totally agree with her because I say that all the time. I said, we're raising adults. We're
yes,
not raising children.
no.
Because if you're raising children, then you're going to have children when they're adults. If you're raising adults, I mean, and I don't like the word raising because it always bothers me. I had this amazing professor who always says, when you're raising something, you're raising flock, you're raising chickens, and you're creating an outcome for them.
Yeah.
So as an adult or as a parent, you don't want to raise someone, you want to guide someone. So we're guiding you guys to become adults. And
That's
if we
powerful.
don't give you those tools, then when you're adults, we're going to complain that you're still children. So why is it always blamed on you guys? You know, and that's really what I heard a lot from the young adults that I talked to between 18 and 24 was like,
Yes.
we're constantly being blamed for the fact that you guys created this. If we had the tools and guidances that we needed, and if you heard what we wanted, then it would have been different. And I was like, that's it. That's the problem. We're not listening to you. And that's what I want the youth to do is I want them to be heard.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you envision like the coming generations if our generation, when we have kids, if we're able to listen and provide that support and guidance to our kids compared to the previous ones? Like, where do you see the future ending up if we did that?
If we make that change, right? If I see that change in the growth happening, first of all, okay, I'm gonna take it back. As we make that change,
Yes.
and when we are creating that space, I think we would have better communication with generations. And you will see that there's going to be a difference of complaining and frustrations and blame and shame and all those kinds of things gone away. I mean, you're not going to see it fluidly gone away, but yes, you will see a decline that. And you will see more connection between generations, younger generations and older generations, because it's your generation that starts it. And then when so we're in generation alpha, which is like the little kids. And when the betas and everything else come back, you will see how communication changes. And there is a place for that to happen. Now, opinions can't change. I can't change people's opinions, but I can guide them on how to communicate with one another and how to create connection with one another. That's what I can do to help.
That's such a beautiful mission. I'm so happy that you're on this journey. And what was I going to say? I had another, like a follow up. Oh, yeah. Okay. So when it comes to listening to people and to our kids, I feel like from my experience that the most important thing to start with is listening to ourselves because we have an emotion that comes up and we push it away. How do you see that playing out and how do you have like a tip or like some sort of hack or science study or anything that comes to mind when it comes to like how we can listen to ourselves and do that in order to help other people?
So I tell all my kids that I hear all the time, right? The younger kids, you know, this thing called the gut, that little thing that says, ooh, I shouldn't be doing that. Or, ooh, that sounds great. I can work on that. Listen to your gut because your gut is never wrong with you. And if there's something that you feel or you have an emotion and that gut is telling you that, listen to it. Because it goes back to if you want someone else to listen to you, you have to listen to yourself. Your inner self and your opinion and your passion or whatever your feeling is going to guide you the best way possible. You know, my parents used to say you have the little red devil and the little angel on you, you know, and that's how you know which direction you're supposed to go in. To make it a modern version, it's our gut. If you're posting something on social media and you're like, this doesn't feel right, and I know I'm just doing it for likes and comments, then it's not the right thing to do. Like I tell my teenage kids this, you know, and that's on social media, but like anytime you are wanting to say something or feel something and you're like, I don't know how to listen to my own emotions, listen to that gut because that gut's telling you that emotion. Now, when you've listened to it, now you got to act on it. Right? You have to act on it. If there's a fear, you need to go talk to someone. If there's a shame, you need to go talk to someone. If there is and I'm talking mental health and emotional wellness types of, regulation. If there's something, you need to talk to someone. Obviously, if there's happiness, express it. If there's joy, express it. Don't hold back onto it because those could be suppressed into something else too. So you cannot suppress your emotions. And once we start suppressing our emotions, then we're not regulating our emotions and then we will have other adverse effects that will be created. So let's talk normal. These aren't big conversations to have. There is no mental health treatment to this. These are little things that you just have to hear your gut and yourself and then act on it.
Yes, I love that. And you mentioned that when you were a child, you had some trouble. Like, I know that you were a really tall person when you're younger. I am too. I'm almost 6 foot. So,
Whoa! You're taller than me. My daughter's gonna be like you. I already know it. I'm 5'11", so I get your
oh,
feeling.
yep. But so, with your experiences, do you have like a specific story where you once listened to your gut and you acted on it and how that impacted your life?
So I was bullied a lot, a lot. And I remember this story, and I tell this to I suppressed a lot of it. I didn't act on it. And it's really bad still for kids right now with the education system that they don't, I have 9-year-olds who are like, we don't even tell the teachers anymore because nobody listens to us. And there is no repercussions for this situation. And I think that's horrible because now we're creating trauma for these kids so early in life. There was a girl, I was in high school, I think I was a sophomore. I went to an all girls Catholic school, and she came at me. And I've never been physically altercated with anyone. Like, I never did a physical altercation. She came at me and she said something to me and she tried to take a swing at me, and I grabbed her leg and I hit her. And I was like, I'm not taking this anymore. I listened to my gut to say I'm fighting back this time. And it's funny, I remember Sister Beth, she was part of the administration, and she said, I'm so proud of you. I thought I was going to be in so much trouble. And she's like, no, I needed you to defend yourself because nobody else is going to help me or advocate for me other than me. And that was my gut telling me, okay, now I know how to stand up for myself because I didn't. I was always told to shut up. I was always told to shut down, or somebody was going to resolve my problem. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And that was my gut telling me, all right, this is the day. And it's funny. I know my brother told me, I want to say this was 5 years ago. He said he saw the girl and she remembers. She goes, I never expected your sister to beat the crap out of me. I was like, I didn't beat the crap out of her. I just swung. And I know now she's a mom. And I mean, obviously that for me was my gut telling me, all right, move. There is another story that really affects me a lot. So I was dyslexic as a child. So there's this saying in dyslexia that if nobody could figure out that you can't read and write or do math, because I was severe dyslexic, you just kind of pass by like a salesperson. You sell yourself that you can do it. I didn't get good grades. And then it was in 7th grade, I remember it was my English lit teacher. He kept me back in the classroom and he sat me down and he said, can you read? And I looked at him and my gut said, say yes. Because no one ever asked me that. And I said yes. And that was the first time in my life that I had a teacher who asked me a question that I did not lie to him or create a sales pitch to get through what I had to get through. And he taught me how to read. Those are the 2 stories that have stuck to me forever, that I always say that was my gut telling me, do it.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing both of those.
you're welcome. I can't believe I'm sharing it. I haven't shared any of this.
No, I love it. I think your stories are going to help so many people because there's so many people that struggle with the same thing and they don't speak up and they don't advocate for themselves.
Advocating for ourselves is hard.
Yeah, it is.
But your generation really wants to do that. And I would not step back from it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you don't know how to, go to somebody else. Have them listen to you in your own generation.
Yeah. Friends.
Friends, not social friends, not social media friends, friends.
True friends, which is also kind of difficult to go
It
to.
is very difficult. I understand that.
Yeah.
Come talk to me. Come talk to Bea. We're here to listen.
Yes, we are. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Dr. Z, for all of the insight that you shared. And I have my final question from the legacy chain from our past podcast guest. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, here we go.
So this question is, what's not okay about you?
God, I have a list. I don't rest. I tell my kids all the time to rest. My daughter's a dancer and I'm like, rest is important and you've got to relax your body and you've got to take downtime. And I don't do that.
Okay.
I want to rest more so I can write more and I can read more. And I have to stop scrolling on YouTube. And I'm not scrolling on YouTube for bad things. My husband's like, it's for things, the work I do, right? I want to hear more kids. I want to see what's out there. But he goes, you've got to rest. Shut it down. And I have this amazing teacher who I call kind of my guide, and he's always saying it to me. You need downtime. And it's important. And I'm trying to do that. I am really working on that.
Yeah.
So,
but it's so difficult.
I don't rest that enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see my eyes, right? It's really bad.
It is difficult too because you're so driven and so passionate. You want to get this purpose out there.
I really want to get this purpose out there. I think that's the once it starts creating, my dad said this. He goes, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but
That's on me.
he goes, when I'm dead, I'll rest. I'm like, no, you can't say that.
Yes, I think that's the mindset right
I
now.
love, but we adults have that. And I think you guys change that. Your generation, I talk to so many kids, they're like, why? Take a nap. And I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. And I think I love how you guys, you're like, I don't have to work 9 to 5. I can
Yeah.
take a vacation. And that's what is the greatest mindset you guys have. My son says, it's like, he goes, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm like, yes, go to sleep.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. I think you're perfect just how you
Oh,
are.
you're so
I
sweet.
also
I love
agree.
that. And
Everyone and
so are
everyone.
you, okay? You're perfect just how you are.
Thank
But we
you.
all need a rest. Rest is not something about perfection.
No,
Sleep is a good thing. It
sleep
helps
is a
the
good.
brain. I know this as a doctor.
Oh my gosh, I love this conversation so much, you. And if more people wanna hear about you, they can go to, like.
Yeah, they can go to Dr. Z underscore MD. I think it's underscore MD. I always, the social media platforms, Dr. Z MD, and definitely DM me. You can email me at Zabina at drzee.com. drzee.com is our website. Listen to the kids. It's listen to the kids is our social media. And then we have listen to the kids, the whole name.com is our website. Anytime, anyone needs us to come to your schools, we do these peer to peer. We're creating a program behind that. And we want to help you guys give us what your needs and wants are so we can give it to your schools, your coaches, your parents, and we can give them the guidance and needs that you need.
Yeah, well, we so appreciate that. So Dr. Z, thank you for being on the Listening Bee.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. Yeah, and follow me on all, and then share it. Like, I'm learning TikTok. I'm getting there. It's there. But I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, but I want more of what you guys want me to, put out there. I want to interview you guys. I want you guys to be on our social media so your voices can be told.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.